Couple things that we need to consider when we're setting things up. So let's get the foundation in order. Let's make sure we get our Lego pieces on the table. What are the websites that we want to track? How many apps do we have? How do users move between them? You don't necessarily need to map out the whole customer journey, but you do need to know, okay, what are the key sites that I want to track under one property? We work with a brand that has, they're owned by a PE firm or major investors, private equity firm that has multiple websites that they kind of compete with each other. So it's not the same customer journey because, they're visiting. It's as if ZenAnchor owned another marketing agency. We may not want to look at that path that they take from ZenAnchor.com to othermarketingagency.com. It's irrelevant to the customer journey. It doesn't make sense for tracking. But if it's subdomain related or complementary products or complementary websites, then you do want to combine them into this one overall view. We also want to know what are the key metrics that we want to track across those domains. What are the conversions? In most cases on the e-commerce side, we're going to be looking at transactions. If it's for lead purposes, we're going to be looking at form submissions. There may be other types of button clicks because we could create an overall KPI that we'll want to track, like one major conversion action across those sites. Of course, we want to audit the existing GA4 setup, which basically means you want to make sure that those conversion events are in place now. So you want to make sure that you have your conversions defined and set up within GA4 before you start adding in other domains for the cross-domain track. Now let's talk about the methods. There's two methods we're going to cover. There's the best practice method, and then there's the manual approach. First, let's cover the best practice method. Here, we're going to start under, I'm going to get out of the PowerPoint to show you guys this directly in the account. First step is we're going to go under the admin section. So I'm logged in to analytics. Let's start at the top. Let's go actually all the way to the view. One second. They already changed that admin interface, but I wanted to start, let's start here. Let's actually look at the reporting, because when you first log into analytics.google.com, it's important to see that first step. So I'm jumping over to our GA4 property for analyticsmates.com. Our first view will be here. This is going to show us the standard reporting. I'm seeing on the bottom here, recently accessed. Oh, that's why I was missing that left panel. You couldn't see it on the screen because of screen share. So where you're going to want to go first is under the admin section. Click on the admin in the bottom left. The next place we're going to go is data collection, data streams. Under the data stream section, we see that we have one primary stream for analyticsmates.com. Now, you think that we would be creating the other streams right here. No, that is not what we're doing. We're going to click on this analyticsmates.com because that is kind of like the master property in this scenario. You're going to choose one primary data stream. You select analyticsmates.com. We're then going to walk down to configure tag settings. Configure tag settings. And from here, we could see that we're using one master Google tag. We actually have this labeled as untitled. We're going to select now configure your domains. Configure your domains. Under the configure your domains section, this is where you're going to want to add additional URLs. You can see today we have just analyticsmates.com and try.analyticsmates.com. We did this under a test setup for the webinar recording and the presentation that you'll see. I'm going to do this in real time with the analyticsmates.com setup. So we have analyticsmates here. We have try.analyticsmates, where it begins with is the condition we've set this to. I'm also going to create contains for if they visit zenanchor.com. Now that we have these domains set up, I'm going to jump back over to the presentation. So you click save. Again, it's all going to be under this configure tag settings under the data stream, the primary data stream that you use. So we just went through this. It'll be in the PowerPoint, each one of these steps. Admin, tag settings, configure domain, choose the domains that you want to use. Now here's a manual approach though. In this scenario, you would be using the Google Tag API, and we would be implementing this directly with Google Tag Manager. So you want to retrieve the client ID on the source domain using this get method. So you would type in this code to get the client ID for the primary domain. Once you have that client and session ID, you add them to the links that point to your website. So for example, let's go to zenanchor.com. One second, it's taking a moment to scroll. There is a link down here to our partner, analyticsmates.com. If I click on it, that URL includes within it this Google Click ID so that we can do that cross-domain tracking. This is automatically being appended by GA4 today. You can manually add that custom URL in that footer by adding this parameter, the client ID equals and session ID, which you get by running this code. So that's how we achieve our client ID and our session ID. This is the manual process. It's much easier to just use the best practice that we described. On the destination page, you want to make sure that those tags are appearing like they were in this situation. And here we're actually seeing the GL tag within the URL because of the best practice method that we're using. But yeah, you'll want to check the URL parameters and make sure that they're updated to include this. So when you visit your website, you're going to check those URLs. I'm covering that already by showing you. Okay, so how do I know if it's actually enabled? So you could use the Google Analytics debugger and go to the admin and click the debug view. You'll go under the reporting identity section. And if you click the page view event, you'll get some information that shows one parameter. You're really looking for the same session ID coming from multiple pages. So what is the page location associated with that session ID? So the big thing that I want you to be aware of is check out the debug view by installing the GA4 debug Chrome extension. This is where you're going to be playing in case you're running into any sort of errors during your configuration. We went through this as an example. Yep, we'll want to see the page location under that debug section. And as you're bouncing around between these sites, it should automatically appear in that debug view. So let's talk about troubleshooting some of the issues. So first, you're going to want to check that URL because sometimes we run into redirect issues. If you're facing any of these redirect issues, you'll want to include those additional pages that they may be redirected to under the data streams section. You want to ensure that that parameter _GL is included. Another common issue is that users may have privacy settings that prevent tracking. There are limitations as to what we can do on this. It is not extremely common, but you should be aware that there will be some discrepancies because more and more users are using browsers that protect their privacy a little bit further. And so you may still see some discrepancies. Same thing is true with some of the ad blockers. And in some cases, they're stripping away some of the JavaScript code. Regardless, adding in that domain is still best practice. These are really excuses for data discrepancy that you may still see, because Google and GA4, there are limitations in terms of managing some of the ad blockers and some of the tracker scripts that they run that may be preventing your traffic.